Let's proceed with this first rundown of all the elements involved in the process with which the behaviors we use every day take place. From single decisions to reaction to stress, right through the more complex experiences in our studies or at work, or even in our personal relationships. There is an issue we touched upon, but that needs to be expanded further, and that is the fact that any behavior needs to eventually come to an end. Does it end when we reach a vantage point or an objective? Because we give up? And on what basis? When observable behavior ends, but we continue to think about it, what are we doing? Is this something still useful? Here the edges really blur between adaptation behavior, self-realization, motivation, and psychosomatic conditions. Just think of how, further to trauma or chronic stress, this state of activation continues to function, even though the problem has been overcome or resolved. Termination phase disorders are easily found in daily life. One key example is that of people who can't stop complaining. Their difficulty in terminating a specific process highlights that the behavior itself didn't help solve the problem. So, the subsequent behavior of complaining is not effective, not even as an outlet. Another interesting instance is that of people who continue to insist in front of clear negative or evident disinterest from the other party, or those that continue an argument started hours earlier with another person and in another setting, as though the issue is contemporary. In these cases too, it may be that the termination signal is not strong enough, or that the conditions for it to be accepted and included in the various adaptation phases are not present. If we think about it, there are termination processes at many levels, from the nervous system to the immune system, the motor system to personal interactions, from stress to pain. These are all interconnected and put the bidirectional relationships of alteration of our behavior at risk. These termination processes are mediated by various elements: the ability to understand interpersonal nurture relationships, those of trust or power, personal fulfillment, and the delicate balance between recovery, hedonism, and motivation activities, ancestral needs, which can be satisfied immediately or vicariously, and much more. There is evidently much to say on this topic, both at the practical and theoretical level, so we'll expand on it on more detail later. The final phase to take into account is the so-called regeneration phase, which comes after termination. After an exertion, it's normal to seek rest. Sleep is the most intuitive way to achieve this, but there are also many others. The key aspect to highlight is that this phase is not just one of recovery. Instead, it actually has significant development component. Muscles don't just rest, but become stronger. The nervous system is optimized. Cells begin metabolic processes to improve energy deployment, but there's still more. After stress, there are innate processes that all mammals put into action to bring their bodies and all the systems that were involved in the behavior required to overcome danger back to a physiological state. Horses run, bears and dogs shake, chimps groom after fighting. These phenomena are deeply rooted and bring various benefits. From a neurobiological standpoint, there are important benefits. Running and shaking are ways of expelling excess toxins produced by trauma and stress, while the oxytocin that is produced from grooming or physical containment combat the high cortisol levels. From a functional perspective, there are individual but also social benefits. These behaviors foster the need for freedom, self-mastery, they redefine physical limits, they consolidate trust and acceptance. The regeneration phase, therefore, plays a central role in recovery, but also in development on many levels. It can be optimized naturally in every type of behavior by following a few simple practical tips, but it can also be used in a targeted and specific way. It is, in fact, possible to develop a window of opportunity for consolidation at the end of therapy, coaching, training and study sessions, during which, via 10 minutes of regeneration, specifically directed to follow certain criteria, it is possible to increase the effectiveness of the previous session very significantly. So, this is the basic cycle of the integrative functional patterns in a nutshell. In the next modules, we'll explore each phase in detail, analyzing the rules that govern them, how they interact with one another, and we will look at which techniques and strategies to use to develop optimal functioning in relation to achieving our specific objectives.